Hello everyone, my name is Evie Lupine. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you all. Today we are going to be going over some holiday themed BDSM scene suggestions, and I am so excited for this because I constantly have so many ideas for scenes and I never get to share them, and so this is finally my opportunity to shine, and I really hope that some of the ideas I have here will enable you to have a little bit of a fun seasonal festive thing with your partner to kind of put an end cap on 2020, because I know this year has been so hard for so many of us, and I've really tried on this list to incorporate as many different types of BDSM as I can. So if you're into CGL or pet play or service or bondage or humiliation, I think hopefully there will be something on this list that will work for you or that you could modify to work for you, because these are just suggestions and you can do with them what you will. But I would also love to hear from you all down in the comment sections if you have any sort of fun seasonal BDSM scenes that you have done in the past that you've really enjoyed, or any ideas that you think maybe I missed on this list. So let's go ahead and get into it. Number one is going to be Advent candle wax play. If you don't know what an Advent candle is, it is traditionally a single tall taper candle that has been marked from days 1 through 25 of the Advent season, and you are supposed to burn a little bit of it every day, so it goes from day 1 to day 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. And I think if you wanted to incorporate this into a scene, obviously it would be a good idea to get something that is made for BDSM play, even if it's not literally an Advent candle. I know lots of people on Etsy and elsewhere that make BDSM candles that do a taper style that could be like an Advent candle, and then you can either decorate it and mark it yourself if you want to, or you could honestly just kind of eyeball it, because it doesn't have to be exactly perfect. You know, that's kind of part of doing the scene, because what I am thinking of is you would have a partner hold the Advent candle in their mouth, and maybe if you live together every day, you wake up or before you go to bed, right, you burn a little bit of that candle. It's literally a slow burning scene, and yes, that pun absolutely intended, because at first it's like, oh, I'm just like holding a candle in my mouth for like a couple seconds, and then slowly it gets closer and closer to your face, and it feels a little bit more intense, a little bit more like, oh, I don't know what's going on here. Now, if you don't want to get wax between your teeth, or if you are worried about the candle getting too close to your face and like burning your nose, you can put the candle in an orange, a mandarin, something like that, to kind of create a little bit of a buffer there. Also, citrus fruit, super seasonal, so hey, you got an extra level of seasonality added onto that scene just by doing that, and then you get to eat the orange and the mandarin afterwards. So like, hey, I think that's a pretty good deal. Aftercare, scene, snack, all put together in one, which I think is super fun. Now, if you want to do something that's a little bit more religious in nature, I would look at the traditional Catholic Advent candle wreath. This is a wreath that comes with 4 candles in colors like white, pink, either purple or blue, and then they are burned to sort of represent different elements about the season and the birth of Jesus Christ. Now, I think there's a couple ways to do this. You could, for example, pour wax on your partner in those colors in that order while they, say, recite Bible passages, or maybe they recite traditional prayers at the same time. If you want to get really into it with costuming and a whole formal ceremony, you can definitely do that as well. Now, obviously, religious play can be really hot for some people. For other people, it's really not, and they want to avoid it. So hey, if you're not into the religious stuff, that is what we have the first version of this suggestion for. Now, number 2 is another Advent themed suggestion, and this would be to do a kinky Advent calendar. I love this idea. It's my favorite one out of all of them, I think. I know by the time I post this, we will already be into the Advent season, so this might be a little bit late for this year, unless you want to do a shortened one, or maybe you just want to keep it in mind for next year. But what I am picturing is you have like a do-it-yourself Advent calendar, where either you work with your partner, or maybe the dominant partner works on their own, And every day of the advent calendar, you have like a little slip of paper that has an order on it or a little bit of a mini scene idea that you can do during that day to stay connected. So for example, you might have one day of the advent calendar say, you will get 3 spankings before bedtime. Or it could say, you will prepare me a mug of hot chocolate to have by the time you get home from work. You know, so you can have lots of little opportunities to try little mini scene ideas, service, impact play, whatever it is that you want it to be that you want to try in your dynamic. So this is actually really great, not just from like a mini scene perspective and keeping BDSM in your life during what is usually a really stressful and busy time for people. It can also be a really great way to try out things that maybe you want to do in your dynamic in maybe a larger way, but you have it in a very controlled and bite-sized, one-day only setting, which I think can be really helpful for people to have that as a way to try out new things. All right, number 3 is Christmas light bondage. I could not go through this list without including it somewhere, so we're just gonna get it out of the way now. You've seen it, I've done it. We all know that as soon as this time of year rolls around, every Shibari account on Instagram and FetLife is gonna start posting photos of bondage with Christmas lights, and it seems like a really hot idea, and you're like, wow, that looks so cool and amazing, I wanna do that. And let me just tell you right now, it's not all it's cracked up to be, right? The little light bulbs on traditional Christmas lights get really hot. They can also shatter under pressure, which is not good. You do not want to have to spend your aftercare pulling out embedded little shards of colored glass from your partner's skin. I think we probably want to avoid that. And while I was looking for light alternatives, I found this little infographic online, which on the one hand is kind of funny for a weird reason, but then also apparently a lot of Christmas light cords are coated with like a lead paint, and I was like, oh my god, what? So yeah, you probably don't want to have the cord in your mouth for a gag. You probably don't want to lick it. Now obviously if you want to do a Christmas light bondage scene, I can't stop you, but I would really advise again that you don't put the cord in your mouth, that you look for shatterproof bulbs when you can, and also I would advocate for either not plugging in the lights at all or keeping them plugged in for a very short amount of time, maybe after all the bondage is done, because again, those lights do get hot and you probably want to avoid any accidental burns, right? We're not negotiating for that in this scene, you know? I would instead maybe look at some alternatives like doing bondage with the usual rope, maybe incorporating some tinsel garland into it instead, just as a way to sort of have that festive tree feeling without all of the drawbacks that come with actual Christmas lights. Now along these same lines, my 4th suggestion is to have a human Christmas tree. I love this idea. I think it's so cute, but I mean, we know about human footstools, right? We know about human lamps. What if you could be a human Christmas tree? It is all the humiliation of being forced to stand in a corner. It is all the adoration and usefulness of being a footstool, but in a very seasonal way. So you could literally have somebody stand up and put some, you know, red or green duct tape over their mouth to keep them quiet because Christmas trees don't talk. And then you could wrap the person up in tinsel garland or in colorful rope bondage that's maybe green and red, or you could do popcorn garland as well. You could have them hold ornaments in their hands or bedazzle them with ornaments on the garland that you put on them. Again, make sure you're being careful with like the little hooks and things like that so you don't actually stick them with a rusty old Christmas ornament hook. Or you could also have them have a hat they have to wear, or they have to balance a tree topper on their head. I think that could be really fun as well. And you could also have them have a Christmas pickle in their mouth as a gag if you don't want to do the colorful duct tape or bondage tape. You could even have the person wear a Christmas tree skirt as their only clothing when they are being a Christmas tree. And I just think it would be really fun if you have like some kind of long distance BDSM Zoom get together during the holidays. Just have like your human Christmas tree in the background, just like, oh hey guys, what's up? Yeah, do you like my new Christmas tree? I think that could be really fun, and I think it's a very interesting, non-traditional way of doing a holiday-themed BDSM scene. So my next suggestion is for people like their BDSM a little bit more on the intense side, and this would be a Krampus-themed fear play scene. So if you don't know the legend of Krampus, he's basically like the anti-Santa Claus. He is part demon and part goat, and rather than giving gifts to good children, he kidnaps bad children and punishes them. So if you have a little, definitely proceed with caution, because it can be really emotionally intense. But if you enjoy kidnapping, fear play, CNC, spanking, role play, interrogation, punishment scenes, if you like being beaten with canes or with a birch bundle or a whip, which are his traditional implements, lots and lots of opportunities for different things to do in a scene like this. You can get crazy with the costuming, and the scene setup is something you can really plan for like a whole day-long event. Or maybe you just want to get a Krampus mask and spook your partner when they wake up from a nap. Like, there are lots of different levels to engage with this on, but I think if you enjoy the spooky, the creepy, the scary, there is certainly ways to engage in the season without it having to be a very like lighthearted and funny scene. Now, if you are a bondage person, this next suggestion is for you. I would say you could do present wrapping with a little bit of a twist. I know it's kind of a meme at this point, the idea of like a submissive getting wrapped up in a blanket and bundled like a burrito as aftercare, but I'm saying you could do this as a scene where you get some like really extra wide wrapping paper, and you roll your partner up in the wrapping paper, and maybe you stick some gift ribbon on them or some bows or labels and things. I think this could also be really fun as like a group scene activity where maybe you are having multiple people kind of help wrap this person up in layers and layers of wrapping paper. And you could also incorporate a little bit of knife play into this as well if you want to have it be a little bit more intense rather than a super lighthearted scene, because obviously you have to cut the wrapping off and see what the present is inside, which is your partner. Big surprise. And I just think this could be a really, really fun alternative to maybe a more traditional sort of bondage scene. Now, if present wrapping really isn't your thing and you always avoid doing it during the holiday season, you can also do something similar to this with vet wrap. If you don't know what vet wrap is, it's really commonly used in BDSM for either like pet play, maybe you're kind of making somebody's hand into a fist, or mummifying somebody. You can get it in lots of different colors. So maybe you could get, say, white and blue, or white and red, or red and green, just some sort of seasonal color combination that you enjoy. And you can literally wrap up your partner like a giant human candy cane, or like a present, but instead of wrapping them in wrapping paper, you use vet wrap instead. And I think it can be a lot of fun to try out if you haven't before. I know I always talk about this, but really if you're a bondage person and you haven't tried something involving mummification yet or total body encasement, like, it's super fun, it's not that expensive, and I would definitely give it a try if you haven't already. All right, don't worry, service people, I know we are getting towards the end of this list, but I haven't forgotten about you. This one, I don't really know how to concisely like summarize it with a title. I'm gonna call it being Santa's little helper slash being like Santa's elf. So I think there's lots of opportunities for roleplay and service during the holiday season because it is the season of giving, right? I think one option for this is maybe you have like a one-off scene where you dress up your partner like an elf and you have them get you like milk and cookies, or prepare you dinner, or rub your feet after a long day of having to wear winter boots, things like that, where you just have a little bit of a holiday twist to your normal service activities with some maybe a little bit of role play or costuming added on. Now, if you don't have service as like an everyday part of your relationship, if you would prefer to do it as like maybe a day-long scene or a couple of hours just dedicated to it, I would think about again being like Santa's little helper or Mrs. Claus's helper, if that's what you would prefer, and just having a set aside amount of time where you are role playing as that person's assistant. You know, again, you're getting the milk and cookies. Maybe you are shining Santa's leather boots to prepare him for his yearly ride to give everybody gifts. Maybe you are running Mrs. Claus a bath. You know, there's lots of ways you can kind of incorporate seasonal activities into this scene and also into service. I think it could be really fun, especially maybe if you have somebody who's a little that would enjoy role playing in the costuming side of being an elf or being somebody's little helper, you know, because you could also do it where it's just like somebody's playing daddy and the other person is being, you know, daddy's little helper, right, for during the holiday season. Now, this list would not be complete without the final suggestion I have for you all today, and that would be naughty list confessions. So the idea here is that you sort of play on like a punishment or maybe a like bratting dynamic kind of scene where you either spank or can use some kind of implement on your partner, and while you are using it on them for every strike, they have to admit something that they did that year that would get them on the naughty list. Again, you can have this be like a punishment atonement scene where it's about sort of going through everything they did throughout the year and getting permission and forgiveness for that. And you could have this be either like a more serious like atonement scene where your partner is kind of getting forgiveness for everything that they did throughout the year and kind of laying that all to rest before it goes to 2021. Or you could have it be more of a punishment bratting scene where the literal details of what happened isn't super important. Like they could just make up things they did on the fly, and maybe you incorporate it to where like, oh, you don't get hit unless the confession is good enough. And so they have to kind of just make up increasingly outlandish things to keep getting the stimulus of the spanking, the caning, what have you. And this is also a great opportunity to, again, add in maybe a little bit of a CGL dynamic, or maybe you could have them wearing a schoolgirl skirt if you're into that while you do the confession, or maybe have it be kind of like a perverted being on Santa's lap and telling him what you want for the year, and then suddenly being like, oh, you've been really naughty, I have to punish you first before I'll let you say what you want for Christmas. You know, lots of options here for role play and incorporating your dynamic into the scene. So that's everything I have for you all today. Hopefully you enjoyed some of these suggestions. Again, if I missed anything, if you have any holiday scenes you've done in the past that you really enjoyed, you can go ahead and leave that down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. I make videos twice a week about all sorts of kink and BDSM related topics. And if you really enjoyed this, if you want to support what I do, please go ahead and check me out over on Patreon. That would be such a wonderful, wonderful seasonal gift for me if you went ahead and checked that out, because that is what keeps this channel going. And it also allows me to offer you all additional perks and rewards like a Discord chat, monthly photo shoots, and extra videos. If you already support me over there, thank you so, so much. It means the absolute world to me. And until I see you guys next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.